Happy Friday, everybody. Today is January the 28th. Welcome to our PHx2 podcast. I'm PH, Paul Hai. He's PH, Phil Hoang. And you know what? We're all PH because, and get used to this, my friends, every podcast episode, we're going to hit you with a new PH acronym. So Phil, today, what's today's PH?
Happy Friday, everyone. You're going to love this one. Party house.
Wow. If you didn't laugh, is that a reflection of you?
Well, I couldn't go without our first podcast without putting the party in it, right? So it had to be the party, right? So, and for those who know me, I am the party guy, right?
Well, you know what? We're having their entertainment after tech, so, it makes a lot of sense.
We do. Makes a lot of sense.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Awesome. So, Paul, let's just start with telling kind of the audience how we got here. How we got to this point in time. How do we get to the Friday podcast?
Mate, tell you what, it's been quite a short journey, actually. I think on Tuesday, I had a catch up with a friend of mine, Glenn Marvin, and out of that catch up, there was two big words that came out of it: LinkedIn audio. And some of you guys may have heard this and be familiar with what's potentially coming out of LinkedIn. Glenn and I were talking about it. We're talking about what potentially I could add value about tech, about business, about leadership. And after that lunch meeting, I phoned you, Phil, gave you the whole rundown. Oh, yeah, I catch up with Glenn. This is what I did, and we took action.
Yeah, I remember vividly. You were so G'd up at the meeting. First of all, you were so G'd up.
I'm always G'd up, bro. I'm always G'd
up. And then the last bit, you're like, "Hey, LinkedIn audio." You're like, and then I'm like, "Okay." So I don't know if the audience would have seen our post, the microphone post. We just went and purchased. So basically, the timeline is on Tuesday we discussed it. We bought the microphone. By Tuesday night, I was set up. And then Friday we're here. So Tuesday was discussion, Friday reality. So crew, if you want to talk about putting things in action, we got it done. We made a decision this week and we're here. So, and I'm pretty happy with the name too, PHx2.
Yeah, we bought some neat microphones from JB Hi-Fi.
Yes.
Go JB.
Yes, we did. Yes.
You've got a microphone arm, I believe.
Yes, I did. I got the flashy from Max arm, which is pretty nice.
Mine's on order.
Yeah, nice.
It's on the way as well.
And then the last bit is probably, hey, once we sell a podcast for 100 mil, we can all go to Vegas.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Sounds good to me. Well, Phil, let's dig into the top line results. What did we hear from Apple today?
I've just got one word the 3 times. Ever. Best results ever. Best quarter ever. So yeah, stellar result. I mean, top line, iPhone grew 9% at 71.6 billion. Let me just recap again. 71.6 billion.
Billion, did you say?
Billion in USD too.
Wow.
So it's probably working out to be, I don't know, 1.7. What's that? 1.6 times 1.3. It's almost 100 billion Australian dollars. The Mac was the biggest growth from a percentage base. Clearly because obviously the Mac chipset, and then services was just behind it. Interesting enough, if you look at it metric-wise, if you look at the Mac business, I know we didn't brief this, Paul, but Mac and the iPad business is worth 17 billion. Services already at 19 billion. Think about that. Services is already bigger than the Mac and iPad businesses.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's something that we probably missed in our debrief. But yeah, I'm just looking at it now, like wow.
Isn't services higher margin too?
Which we will talk about. It's above 60, right? 60 is the no cost of goods, right? But there's probably a enormous investment in content creation, right? That's probably the cost.
Absolutely.
Of it. And then you break down the regions. I mean, Love gives a shout out, but Asia Pac, which is Australia and New Zealand, were second highest growth. So, from a growth perspective, China was ranked 1. We were ranked 2. America, Europe, almost the same, a couple of percentage points off. So top line, they grew 11% from a top line perspective. But the key negative for them was Japan went backwards 14%. Just to recap, total net sales, 123.945, just shy of 24 billion in one quarter.
The best ever, right?
Best ever quarter ever, and still 11% growth, given they had so many supply issues. The Stellar, right?
We all know that.
Yeah. So I mean, iPhone still performed well, knowing there was stock constraint. And again, iPhone probably was, we got a shout out in Australia. It was the top 5 ranking smartphone sold to the market. So that's kind of what's driving the growth.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I guess if I could talk about services for the audience, huge in services, right? 785 million subscribers right now. That's a lot. And if you look at that versus last quarter, so in the last 3 months, Apple's grown 40 million subscribers in one quarter.
Yeah, that's pretty big. What did they grow for the year?
165 million.
Yeah, for a 12-month period, right?
12-month period.
Yeah,
that's right. And if you look at it, there's still a lot of room to grow. That's what Tim Cook said. Tons of greenfield opportunity.
Yep.
For subscribers.
I mean, if you look, if you look at the percentage base, what's the percentage base of subscription versus the active user base, right? It's just under 50%.
Only 44.
Yeah, that's massive.
If that's not greenfield, I don't know what is. And if you look at Mac was huge too. All-time record. Last 6 quarters of Mac have been the best Mac quarters, and all contributed by M1 and the MacBook Pros. So another fantastic quarter, and that's why they're on top. What did Tim Cook say about new iPad users and Apple Watch users?
Yeah, it's just under 50%. Just under 50%.
Big takeaway there is half of all iPads purchased in the quarter were brand new users. Brand new users to Apple. And if I'm correct, was it 2/3 of Watch?
Yes. 2/3 of new Watch customers were new users.
You've got an Apple Watch, right?
I do. Only a Series 6 though. So I didn't upgrade last year. Yeah, that's massive, right?
That is massive.
Mate, ever. We got inventory.
That's the big question, right?
That's the big question, right? Inventory. So I guess they did make comment that March was going to be, just like this coming quarter, they're forecasting March is going to be one of the strongest quarter. March they're going to have. Supply will improve, which will be better than December, but still play a factor. So I guess if you put a question to me, Paul, will supply be better? Yes. I don't know what degree, but it'll be better than December. But if you also think about their numbers that they produced, just imagine if they could have supplied and it wasn't chip shortage, what numbers would you be looking at, right? That's the hard to measure, hard to forecast, but there's still, as I like to use, money on the table. So it'd be good news, good news for around. We're having stock.
No, that was good news overall. I was very happy to hear that. It's always not one of those things you want to hear when you hear that every quarter. Perhaps stock will not be in a great position because of chipsets, but this time round, was very happy to hear that.
Yeah. And the other highlight takeaway for me is they didn't mention it. So like versus the last finance call, they broke down by category. What potentially was going to be the red flag, what was going to be underperforming. They put an iPad out specifically, right? This call, they didn't say, they just glossed over it, right? They just said, we're going to have the best March quarter and we're going to have a better supply. And they left it at that. So to me, then, that's a bonus. That's a plus.
One thing that Tim Cook said that was very interesting, and I think this is a huge point, their current active install base is 1.8 billion devices. I think if we step back a moment and look at that, that's huge. That's a lot of Apple devices out there, right? I mean, what services can Apple sell to them? And if you look at Jan 2020, 2 years ago, roughly, when the pandemic started, they had 1.5 billion devices, active install base. A year after that, 1.65 billion. And so we're looking at the growth rate of 150 million every year. I reckon Apple will hit 2 billion at the end of this year. Think about that. 2 billion at the end of this year, growth by 200 million. I think that's hugely achievable. Although Tim Cook didn't report their current iPhone install base, they reported, overall device install base. I think, iPhone's still guarded secret. Sometimes he reports on it, but just think about that. At the end of this year, Apple could have 2 billion active devices out there. What do you think about that, Phil?
I think it just rolls into their new business. It just tags on to their, what we call the blue ocean business, right? They can just convert more customers to their services, right? That's really the long-term strategy, I think. And as soon as one customer converts, they're making 60 cents to a dollar, right? 60% margin. So the more they can convert, the more profitable they're going to be.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Total. Yeah, they've just created a what's it called, the shaver. The shaver. You can sell this disposable shavers, but you still got the handle, right? So you always need to refresh that shaver, right? The disposable shaver. That's kind of like the content. So I think that's their stickiness that they're creating. So huge.
Did we hear about the Metaverse?
We did. Did you just drop the meta, did you?
I just dropped the meta.
Just dropped the meta. Well, I don't know, some of our listeners will know us personally, and we know we're bullish, very bullish on the Metaverse. I mean, 2 words. This is from Tim Cook, right? Investing accordingly is what he said. Who asked? Analyst for Morgan Stanley asked him a direct question, and this is I'm quoting here. We're a company from Tim Cook, right? We're a company in the business of innovation, exploring new emerging tech, and we'll invest accordingly. So he did kind of direct it back to our app store. There's 14,000 AR, augmented reality apps at the app store. So I personally think, because the Metaverse, as you see now, it's more VR, more immersive experience, the 360, right? It's almost like Apple might go into Metaverse, but I think they might go into what they call the mixed reality, like augmented reality. It will be half Metaverse, half reality, right? So I think, if you've seen these apps with the augmented reality, I think that's kind of the path they're going to lead into the metaverse. I still think it's going to be massive. The next 10 years, we'll be doing all these things in the metaverse and not doing, what we do now. Just like how 10 years ago we weren't doing Zoom, for example. So it's just going to become the norm. Yeah, that's my take.
Are you saying we're going to do podcasts in the metaverse very soon?
Yeah, very soon. Very soon. Who knows? We might even be the first ones. What do you think, Paul?
I concur with what you've been saying. And you know what? If you look at Apple's path, you look at their privacy, you look at their install base that could reach 2 billion devices. That's a lot, and services as that grows, as that comes, as you mentioned, AR apps is huge. Turning that into something that relates to the metaverse is going to be huge. So
it
very,
is
very bullish on what's to come.
Yeah. Because I think you've got to enable it. But at the moment, it's 14,000 apps. I think it's 12 or 14,000. I don't know the exact number. They're trying to use it as the enabler, right? As opposed to creating something new. They've already got that ready to go. Yeah. While all these other companies like, Microsoft went and bought, Activision, Meta, or Facebook are investing money. They already got they can pivot straight away. All right. Whoever pivots the quickest and create it is going to be first to market. And we all know when you're first to market, the benefits.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm just waiting to get on Tim Cook's island.
Yeah, Tim Cook, mate. It is, mate. Now, with that said, let's open up to questions. Listeners, do you have any questions for us?
I've got a question there, Phil.
Yes.
So I listened to that. Well, thanks so much for sharing that. That was very timely. I jumped straight in and had a good listen. It was fascinating to actually have that. I mean, imagine those guys sitting around that table talking that subject and just seeing their bank balances swelling as they're talking. It's something, right? But for me, you're touching on with the metaverse is I think you're bang on. I think what they're waiting for is a moment to release something which is the midpoint between where other players have gone and what you see with that VR experience and what exists already in augmented reality solutions. So, for one of, I know we're talking about Apple, but, Microsoft have led the way with HoloLens for a long period of time. They've got very clear kind of goal on that. But also you've got what Oculus are doing in the space of VR. And it's really interesting to me that I think Apple are kind of saying, well, that doesn't really fit our aesthetic. We're much more of a design and kind of innovation-led business. So we want something that's going to really play to that, a pair of glasses type setup. And I think, that's where they're edging the bet. I think they want to get something that's really slick. I don't think they're going to bring something ugly to the table. And I think quite frankly, irrespective of the incredible technology that exists right now, I don't know if it's necessarily as Apple would like it. Right. So I'm with you 100%. If you've watched the movie Free Guy, I'm thinking that kind of tech. Is where it's at.
I love that movie. Oh, kids and I have watched it like 5 times. Love it. Yeah, it's kind of like if you've watched Ready Player One, that's kind of that dystopian view of where everything's going from a metaverse, right? But it's still very, haptic suit driven. It's kind of like you can see that tech already existing, right? I mean, that's not far away from where Oculus and those kind of guys are heading with their tech, but this is a whole different gig. So I'm with you on where you're kind of saying that they're hanging back for something a bit more groundbreaking. Oh yeah, and spot on. You're spot on with your analysis, Stuart. And I think one thing to remind ourselves, right, particularly Apple are never first. They were the never first MP3 player. Okay, they were never the first smartphone. But what they got right was a value proposition, how they integrate, make it easier for people to use. That's their key, right? That's always been their secret sauce, the thing. The aesthetic design, yes, but they were never first, but they were first to get it right. Right. So if you look at even the Apple ecosystem, they were first to get it right. So I think all hype, all these kind of companies investing money in, enjoying the hype. But if anyone's going to get it right, I would bet on Apple.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that the point Paul made around the edging towards 2 billion users, those numbers are staggering when you you break it down. And quite frankly, the fact that the iPad has grown as the entry point, and as they've you're kind of adding people to their ecosystem via that as the beachhead, that's the perfect intro, right? Once you're there, you're hooked. You're getting a phone after that, and you're damn sure as hell getting a MacBook, you know?
Yeah. I mean, even from my own experience, and Paul, you can probably speak to this as well. I can't get out of the Apple ecosystem. I can't go out and change my phone. I have to change my laptop. I have the car head unit. I got to change this. I got to change my whole life. I can literally have to change my whole life. I can't do that.
Yeah. No, it's look, and I mean, look, we haven't even got to the fact of where Mac is going from a desktop experience, right? Like with the actual portable and the laptop experience is one thing, but the desktop's going to get bigger and more powerful, and M2 and the appropriate advances in that technology are going to be phenomenal. I think that, there's also this thing about supply chain. I think Apple are such a behemoth in respect of their influence and capacity to forward buy. I think they've well spread bet on the fact of knowing their supply chain's pretty solid to be as bullish as they were for that March month.
Yes. So they're pretty confident they've got it in the bag.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, agreed. Paul, do you have any comments on that?
I'm just very happy to hear that inventory is going to improve and look better. And that's happy for everyone that's probably listening to us.
Yeah, I know everyone's listening. Stock will improve. So tell your customers, wait till March.
Did the share price jump as a result?
I'm looking at it now. It did. It's usually a sell-off. Actually, the short sellers usually trade at sell-off, and it's it's come down a little bit. Yeah, usually there's an intraday sell-off because all the day traders are moving equity.
But after hours traders looking healthy, around $7 up, around almost 5% up from the announcement. So there's definitely a lot of confidence on Wall Street and any investors out there.
It will definitely hit 3 trillion this year at some point.
No question.
I mean, it almost was before the big sell-off because the tech and the US dollar inflation conundrum. But yeah, cool. Any more questions? Thanks, Stuart, for your feedback and discussion. Any more questions for our listeners?
Not really a question. Sorry. Hello, everyone.
Oh, hello.
It's strange that they've called that iPad is going to be in a better position, because I am being advised that there's like a 9 to 10 week lead time on
iPad. Did you like Tim Cook? I don't know if you heard Tim Cook. They asked Tim Cook specifically that, and he said, "I'm not in a position to say who's getting what stock and what, but I just know from a top line perspective we're going to improve." I'm like, okay. What does it mean for us? Who knows? But I reckon it would still be a factor.
Yeah.
To what degree? Who knows?
Definitely. Thank you for all the info. It's been awesome.
No worries.
Thank you.
Yeah. What they did, to add to that, they did say was that they are in a better position to procure more chipsets versus last quarter, which was obviously really challenging.
It is. I've always had this logic, all right, thinking around Apple, right, around they're repurposing, because they manufacture their own chipset, their own silicon. So they're repurposing the silicon for that silicon, not to put it in an iPad because it's the lower ASP product, and to move that silicon to an iPhone because it's high revenue, high profit, right? And one of the analysts asked Tim Cook that exact question. I was proud of him. I'm like, that's that question I would ask if it's Tim Cook. And he literally dodged it like he was a Matrix agent. He dodged it. He was dodging it. He didn't give a straight answer at all. right? And yeah. Well, with that, that's our first show.
Our first one, baby.
Thank you so much. We're so blessed to have you on. Paulie?
Guys, this is our first go, and we're very happy with it. And again, we want to make sure that as going forward, we create good entertainment, good value, and hope that we can invite you to our next podcast, episode 2. Isn't that right, Phil?
Yeah, can't wait until that happens. So hope to hear you on our next one. Thanks all.
Sounds good.
Happy Friday.
Take care, guys.
Take care.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.